here at Congregation Dor Tamid, or virtual Congregation Dor Tamid, coming to you live from my house. I'm here with Keshet this morning. She's taking a nap while we're going to read some stories. It is great to see you all here today as we come back together each and every Shabbat on today, what is a gorgeous day outside. So let's begin by singing a couple songs, and then we'll get right into our stories. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Chiri, biri, biri, bim. Bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. So this Wednesday night, we have a holiday. We've been talking about it for a couple weeks now. We have Tu B'Shvat coming up, our holiday, which we say happy birthday to the trees. So I've got a book to start us with called Thank You Trees. And it's by Gail Langer-Karwoski and Marilyn E. Gutman, and it's illustrated by Kristen Baluch. On Tu B'Shvat, we plant a tree, baskets of fruit for you and me. Orange, grapefruit, peach or plum, lemon, mango, apple, yum. On Tu B'Shvat, we plant a tree, cool green shade for you and me. Eat a picnic, sing a song, dance the hora, clap along. On Tu B'Shvat, we thank each tree for all it gives to you and me. Recycle paper, show you care. Weed and water, do your share. On Tu B'Shvat, we plant a tree, so much beauty for you and me. And as Tu B'Shvat is coming on Wednesday, something that you can do to celebrate is, it's a tradition to plant parsley on Tu B'Shvat. As we say thank you to the trees and say happy birthday to the trees, we can plant parsley on Tu B'Shvat. And if you water it and you take care of it and give it good sunlight, it should be grown just enough so that you can use it on your Seder plate when we get to Passover in just a few months. Our next book is called A Hat for Mrs. Goldman. It's a story about knitting and love by Michelle Edwards and G. Brian Karras. When Sophia was a tiny baby, Mrs. Goldman next door knit her a tiny baby hat to keep her warm. Now Sophia is big and she makes the pom-poms for Mrs. Goldman's hats. Hats for the tiniest babies. Hats for small, medium, and large heads. Mrs. Goldman taught her how. Keeping kepis warm is our mitzvah, says Mrs. Goldman, kissing the top of Sophia's head. This is your kepi, and a mitzvah is a good deed. Sophia and Mrs. Goldman bundle up to walk Mrs. Goldman's dog, Fifi. Winter is almost here. Fifi wears her dinosaur sweater. Sophia wears her fuzzy kitten hat and matching mittens. Mrs. Goldman made them all. An icy wind blows Mrs. Goldman's hair left and right. It turns her ears pink. Where's your hat? Asked Sophia. I gave it to Mrs. Chen, she explains. Mrs. Goldman's kepi must be cold, worries Sophia. At home, Sophia thinks and worries again. Worries and thinks. Mrs. Goldman needs a hat. Who will knit one for her? Not Mrs. Goldman. She's too busy knitting for everyone else. Last year, Mrs. Goldman taught Sophia how to knit. I only like making pom-poms, decided Sophia after a few days. Knitting is hard and it takes too long. Now Sophia digs out the knitting bag Mrs. Goldman gave her and the hat they started. The stitches are straight and even. The soft wool smells like Mrs. Goldman's chicken soup. Sophia holds the needles and tries to remember what to do. She drops one stitch, she drops another. Still, Sophia knits on. She wants to make Mrs. Goldman the most special hat in the world. The next day, when Sophia and Mrs. Goldman walk Fifi, tiny fluffs of snow fall on Mrs. Goldman's head. Her ears are bright red. Mrs. Goldman's kepi must be very cold, frets Sophia. Sophia knits after breakfast. She knits after lunch. She knits after dinner. She even knits while Mama reads her a bedtime story. But Sophia doesn't knit when she is at Mrs. Goldman's house. The hat is a surprise. All week there's frost on the windows. One day, when they are walking Fifi, Mrs. Goldman wraps Mr. Goldman's scarf around her head like she's a mummy. A fierce wind unwraps it and flings it up high. Sophia jumps up and grabs the end of the scarf. Fifi nips at the other end. Mrs. Goldman's kepi must be freezing, shivers Sophia. Sophia knits and knits and knits, faster and faster and faster, stitch by stitch, row by row. Then Sophia sews. At last, Mrs. Goldman's hat is done. Sort of. The hat is lumpy and bumping. There are holes where there shouldn't be holes. It looks like a monster hat, thinks Sophia. Sophia turns the hat over and around, inside out. Mrs. Goldman's hat should not be a monster hat that will scare Fifi. Sophia opens her box of hats Mrs. Goldman made her. Each one is special, but they are all too small for Sophia now, and way too small for Mrs. Goldman. Sophia looks in the hall closet. There are hats Mrs. Goldman made for Mama and Papa. She can't give her their hats. There's a scratchy old hat Sophia's abuela wore back in Mexico. Worse than Mr. Goldman's scarf. Sophia thinks about Mrs. Goldman and the hats they make together. Your pom-poms add beauty, Mrs. Goldman always tells her, and that's a mitzvah too. Sophia feels her heart grow bigger and lighter like a balloon. She searches her room for red yarn. Mrs. Goldman loves anything red. She gathers her scissors, her sewing needle, and her stack of index cards. Sophia gets busy, very busy. When Sophia is done, Mrs. Goldman's hat is the most special hat in the world. Sophia rushes next door. Surprise! For me? Asks Mrs. Goldman. For you, answers Sophia. It's a hat, she says. Of course it is, exclaims Mrs. Goldman, and she hugs Sophia. And then she cries. What's wrong? Asks Sophia. Don't you like it? I more than like it. I love it, declares Mrs. Goldman. Gorgeous. Like Mr. Goldman's rose bushes, and you know how I love his roses. Mrs. Goldman kisses Sophia on the top of her kepi. I made it all by myself, Sophia tells her. Amazing. And will you look at all these pom-poms? 1, 2, 3, 4, counts Mrs. Goldman. Sophia joins in. There are 20 pom-poms on Mrs. Goldman's hat, each one made with love. She gently puts her hat on. The next day, Sophia and Mrs. Goldman walk Fifi. Fifi wears her dinosaur sweater. Sophia wears her fuzzy kitten hat and matching mittens. Mrs. Goldman wears her Sophia hat. Her kepi is toasty warm, and that's a mitzvah. Our final book this morning is a silly one, and it's called Attack of the Underwear Dragon. It's by Scott Rothman and illustrated by Pete Oswald. Cole had always wished he could be an assistant knight to Sir Percival, his favorite knight of King Arthur's Round Table. So Cole wrote him a letter. Dear Sir Percival, I would make a great assistant knight because I am smart, I work hard, and whatever I don't know, I promise to learn. Please give me a shot. Love, Cole. Sir Percival read Cole's letter and cried. That's right, knights cry. Knights cry at sad plays and bad plays, when they step on something sharp or run into a harp, when they cut onions or get bunions, when they get stuck on castle ceilings, or when a wizard hurts their feelings. But Sir Percival cried because he had once written a letter to his favorite knight, Sir Lancelot, who had given him a shot. So Sir Percival made Cole his assistant knight. Cole had a lot to learn. He learned how to sharpen Sir Percival's swords, spears, battle axes, and knight pencils. He learned how to ride a horse and swing a sword, how to paint Sir Percival doing awesome knight poses, and calm Sir Percival when he awoke from nightmares about a big, scary underwear dragon. Cole learned how to get knocked off a horse, knocked down by a knight, knocked over by a princess, and knocked out by a catapult. At battle time, Cole learned how to pack Sir Percival's stuff, lug it into battle, cheer for Sir Percival when the battle began, and bandage his boo-boos when it was all over. Cole loved learning what made Sir Percival a great knight, even if Sir Percival was terrified an underwear dragon would come and destroy the kingdom. Unfortunately, an underwear dragon came and destroyed the kingdom. All the knights fought the underwear dragon, and all the knights lost. Pretty soon, there was only one knight left. Pretty soon, there were no knights left. So Cole wrote another letter. Dear Underwear Dragon, I am only an assistant knight of the Round Table, but I think you should clean up the mess you made because it's not nice to mess up a kingdom that does not belong to you. I can help if you want. Love, Cole. The Underwear Dragon got Cole's letter and ate it. That's right, underwear dragons can't read. Underwear dragons can't read letters, gestures, sweaters, billboards, signs for Gil's swords, party invitations, poems about crustaceans, royal decrees, bath oil recipes, moat signs, goat kinds, menus, words with 10 U's, or even maps that medieval hens use. The underwear dragon went to eat Cole next. When Cole saw the underwear dragon, he was scared. And when the underwear dragon attacked, Cole didn't think he would be able to do anything. But then Cole remembered everything he'd learned from being an assistant knight, and fought, and jousted, and wrestled, and catapulted the underwear dragon until its underwear flew off. And so did the dragon. The whole kingdom cheered and helped Cole clean up the mess the underwear dragon had made. Thank you, Cole. Back at his castle, King Arthur made Cole a knight and gave him a place at the Round Table. But Sir Cole just wanted to get some rest because tomorrow he needed to find his own assistant knight of the Round Table. So that'll do it for our Shabbat morning story time today. I hope you enjoyed our stories. I want to wish you a happy Tu B'Shvat on Wednesday. Make sure to say happy birthday to the trees and plant your parsley for Passover. Until next week, when we'll be back for another story time next Shabbat morning, I want to say I'll see you soon, my friends. Shalom, chaverim, shalom, chaverim, shalom, shalom. Lehitraot, lehitraot, shalom, shalom. Shabbat shalom, everyone.